That looks like a Bigfoot.
Insane. That's a beaver. It's going around in circles, so they hit their...
The government suddenly shut down the popular show Expedition Bigfoot after the team found something terrifying deep in the forest. The crew, which had been searching for any signs of Bigfoot with their advanced equipment, got a shock when their tech picked up something big and unexpected. It was enough to send chills down everyone's spine. Rumors spread quickly that they had found real evidence of Bigfoot, so real, in fact, that the government pulled the plug on the show. But why would the government shut things down after such a discovery? Let's start from their beginning findings when the team felt something was off in this forest. This was isolated, dense, and felt untouched by humans. The deeper they went, the more it felt like they were stepping back in time, into a realm few had ever entered. The trees stretched high, blocking out sunlight, while thick moss coated nearly every inch of the ground. It was the kind of place where you might second-guess every step, wondering what could be watching you from the shadows. Early into their expedition, they stumbled upon a disturbing sight. Scattered bones lay on the forest floor, still bearing pieces of flesh. This wasn't a casual predator's leftovers, but it was as if a violent, brutal event had taken place. It sent a shockwave through the team, forcing them to confront the reality of what they were dealing with. Yet, they pressed on, determined to find answers. They were chasing a legend after all, and this unsettling discovery only added to their determination. Not long after, their persistence led to an even more shocking discovery. They found a massive, unmistakable handprint pressed into the mud. It was enormous, far too big to belong to any known animal in the area. The sight of it was so eerie that seasoned explorers, Russ and Maria, were momentarily stunned. They knew they were onto something. This random mark was evidence that something big, strong, and real had walked there recently. The excitement was palpable. Maria immediately relayed the information to Ronnie, who quickly joined them on the island, astonished by the size and clarity of the handprint. It was a breakthrough, undeniable proof that a creature, likely Bigfoot, was out there. Nearby, they found more prints, knuckle prints that seemed to show the creature moved in a way that was oddly similar to humans and apes, almost a blend of both. Last year, Maria had pointed out that a skull she'd found had similar characteristics, with notable traits of both human and ape skulls.
Would be able to walk bipedally, but it would also spend time on all fours.
These new findings supported her theory, suggesting this creature wasn't just powerful, but had complex physical capabilities. The team's excitement was tempered by a deep-seated unease. They were in the presence of something both unknown and potentially dangerous. As the crew analyzed these findings, Russ noticed something startling. There were two distinct sets of tracks. This meant they were likely dealing with multiple creatures. The realization spurred the team to ramp up their efforts. They carefully photographed, measured, and examined each track, their curiosity pushing them past the challenges of the unforgiving wilderness. They suspected that these creatures might use the river as a travel route, possibly as a source of food or even a hideout. This theory guided their approach, leading them to focus their search on a valley near the river, hoping to uncover the creatures they sought. Their resources were running thin, but they refused to give up. Deploying drones equipped with heat-sensing cameras, they scanned the area from above while the ground team combed the riverbanks. The tension in the air was thick as Bryce led the drone operations, coordinating the search teams via radio. Every rustle in the underbrush, every crack of a branch, had the team on edge. They were actively pursuing what could be the discovery of a lifetime. As the drone hovered over the trees, its heat-sensing camera picked up a vaguely human-shaped figure moving through the shadows. Anticipation surged through the team. Could this be the creature they were after? Yet, just as they were about to zoom in, the figure slipped away, vanishing into the depths of the forest.
It's gone now. Can you go to the regular lens?
Frustrated but undeterred, the team pressed on, acutely aware of the risks. They were venturing deeper into an environment that seemed intent on hiding its secrets. As darkness descended, Ronnie, Maria, and Russ followed the river's edge, while Bryce's team managed the drone high above, keeping a watchful eye on the dense canopy. In a critical moment, The drone detected something moving several miles from Maria and Russ's location. Bryce informed them quickly, speculating that the creature might be heading toward the glacier. Maria and Russ adjusted their course, hoping to intercept it. Meanwhile, Ronnie, moving cautiously through a thick part of the forest, felt the weight of the night close in on him. He was alone in a dark and isolated area, but Bryce used the drone's tech to enhance Ronnie's visibility in the low light, directing him with real-time thermal images. In their pursuit, Ronnie stumbled upon another shocking discovery. There, in the mud, were large footprints spaced far apart, indicating a massive stride. Broken branches littered the area around them, a silent testament to the creature's power. With a handheld thermal camera, Ronnie tried to scan the surrounding forest, hoping to catch another glimpse. However, the thick foliage made it nearly impossible. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, and for a split second, Ronnie thought he'd come face to face with the creature. But it was Bryce who'd come to assist. The two decided to follow the trail further, venturing deeper into the darkness, driven by the hope of a direct encounter. Their flashlights barely pierced the dense woods as they followed a path that seemed well trodden by the creature, leading them closer to the glacier. The cold intensified, and an eerie silence filled the air. It wasn't long before they stumbled upon a chilling sight: a freshly killed animal, its blood staining the snow. The scene was brutal, with bones and flesh scattered, hinting at a powerful predator. For a moment, Ronnie and Bryce felt the weight of their mission. They were tracking something that could tear apart prey with terrifying ease. The team studied the remains and noted that some key parts of the animal were missing, raising the possibility that this creature wasn't just a random hunter. Perhaps it was following a pattern, picking its prey with precision. The snapped bones brought to mind early humans, who broke bones to access marrow, a nutrient-rich resource that contributed to brain development. This behavior hinted that the creature was something with a purpose, something closer to us than anyone had previously thought. The night stretched on as Ronnie, Bryce, Maria, and Russ continued their search. The forest was dense and dark, and each team member was acutely aware of the stakes. They weren't just chasing a mythical creature. They were facing an unknown being, one that might be as clever as it was strong. The drone captured blurry thermal images, showing rapid movements, almost as if the creature was deliberately avoiding them. Every time they closed in, it slipped away, leaving only traces. The search grew increasingly intense as morning approached. The team knew daylight would bring clarity, revealing details hidden in the dark. Yet, exhaustion was setting in. They'd been tracking the creature for hours, and frustration grew with every dead end. Just as they were about to regroup, a member of the team spotted a flash of movement along the ice ridge. Russ caught a fleeting glimpse of a humanoid shape that quickly disappeared again, reigniting their determination. They were closer than ever. The freezing temperatures made the environment harsh and unforgiving. Only a creature with thick fur and resilience could survive here, and they wondered if this landscape was part of why the creature had chosen to stay hidden. Eventually, Maria spotted an ice cave in the distance, its entrance shadowed and foreboding. It was a tantalizing possibility. If the creature had made a home there, it could explain how it had managed to remain unseen for so long. As the team ventured closer to the cave, a sudden, eerie silence enveloped them. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath. They moved cautiously, aware that each step brought them nearer to the truth. Bryce and Ronnie, lagging to examine other clues, spotted a high claw mark on a tree. The mark was unusually high, and it didn't match the parallel scratches typically left by bears. This was something else entirely, something far more mysterious. At the cave entrance, Maria and Russ felt a surge of anticipation. They could sense they were on the verge of a monumental discovery. However, their excitement was tinged with dread. They had pursued this creature across unforgiving terrain, but now, standing at the edge of the unknown, they felt a primal fear creeping in. The temperature dropped, and a sudden gust of wind echoed through the cave. The team hesitated. Every instinct told them to turn back. Then, without warning, the silence was shattered by a low, guttural growl that seemed to come from deep within the cave. The sound was unlike anything they had ever heard. a blend of animalistic rage and eerie intelligence that reverberated through the icy cavern walls. The growl echoed, filling the air with a vibration that made the hair on their necks stand up. Maria glanced at Russ, her eyes wide, and both shared the same unspoken thought. Whatever was in there was no ordinary creature. Ronnie, who had just caught up, barely had time to react before the growl intensified. It was closer now, and the sheer force of it sent a chill down their spines. Yet, they couldn't look away. They were on the verge of uncovering a mystery that had haunted humanity for centuries. With a deep breath, Bryce tightened his grip on his flashlight, and together they took a cautious step forward. As they moved deeper into the cave, the air grew colder, and the walls seemed to close in around them. Their flashlights barely penetrated the darkness, casting long, wavering shadows that danced with each movement. Suddenly, Maria spotted something glinting on the ground. A series of broken bones, scattered in a way that suggested a meal had been interrupted. Some of the bones looked suspiciously human. The implications were grim, but the team pressed on, driven by a morbid curiosity. If this creature was capable of hunting and killing not only animals, but possibly humans, they were dealing with something far more intelligent and dangerous than they had anticipated. The evidence pointed to a predator at the top of the food chain, one that had successfully evaded humans for centuries. Just as they reached the deepest part of the cave, the air turned deathly still. They paused, listening, barely breathing. Then, in the dim glow of their flashlights, they saw it. A towering figure, partially obscured by the shadows but undeniably massive. Its eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the light with a piercing intensity. It stood on two legs, covered in thick, matted hair, with muscular limbs that hinted at a strength beyond anything they'd seen. The creature took a step toward them, its movements slow and deliberate, as if assessing them. For a moment, everyone froze, caught in a silent standoff. They were staring at what could only be described as Bigfoot, and it was staring back, equally aware of them. The realization hit hard. They had found Bigfoot, but now they were the intruders in its territory. Ronnie tried to raise his camera, but his hands were shaking. The creature tilted its head, almost curiously, and let out a low, guttural sound that seemed more like a warning than a threat. This was its domain, and they were trespassers. Before they could make a decision, the creature suddenly lunged forward, its speed startling for something so large. Panic seized the team, and in a blur of movement, they scrambled to get out of the cave. They ran through the dark, stumbling over rocks and slipping on the icy floor, with the creature's heavy footsteps echoing behind them. Ronnie and Bryce were the first to reach the cave entrance, gasping for air, but Maria and Russ were only a few steps behind. They could feel the creature's presence close on their heels, but as they burst out into the open air, it stopped at the mouth of the cave, watching them from the shadows. For a moment, it simply stood there, as if daring them to return. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, it retreated into the darkness, leaving the team breathless and shaken. Back at camp, they tried to process what had just happened. Each team member had seen the creature, felt its presence, and knew that they had come closer to Bigfoot than anyone ever had before. But instead of a triumphant victory, there was an overwhelming sense of dread. They couldn't shake the feeling that they had narrowly escaped something far more dangerous than they had bargained for. Word of their encounter spread quickly, and soon the entire expedition was called off. It was deemed too risky to continue, and the team reluctantly packed up their equipment. But they knew they were leaving behind one of the most significant discoveries of their lives. In the days that followed, each team member grappled with what they had seen. They had come to uncover the truth, but instead, they were leaving with more questions than answers. What exactly was this creature? Was it truly Bigfoot, or was it something else entirely? And perhaps most importantly, what had they disturbed in the forest that night? The legend of Bigfoot had always been shrouded in mystery, but now it was personal. They had seen it, felt its presence, and survived to tell the tale. But in the end, the creature remained as elusive as ever, retreating back into the shadows where it would continue to haunt the forests and the minds of those who dared to search for it. As they drove away from the site, leaving the dark, ancient woods behind, the team couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end. They had uncovered a glimpse of something extraordinary, but it was as if the creature had allowed them just enough to keep them questioning, to keep them coming back. And in the heart of the forest, somewhere beyond human reach, the legend of Bigfoot continued.